Well, hello. Here we are once again. It is Wednesday night. It is 7 o'clock. How are you doing? I hope you are having a fantastic evening. So, tonight, our talk is about my spouse and I are growing apart. So, I wanted to talk about this because a lot of times in relationships, we start to go south because of the fact that we have grown apart. So, grown apart in our relationship. So, tonight I'm going to cover three things, and I hope that these three things will help you to learn and also help you to understand what it means to be growing apart. So, first of all, is to determine why is it that you are growing apart? Why are you and your spouse growing apart? The second thing we'll talk about are the signs that you are growing apart. So, what indicators are there out there, or indicators that are in your marriage that indicate that you are growing apart? And the final thing, which I think is the most important, is that you want to know, what do I do to fix it? So, how do I fix it if I feel like we are growing apart? So, before I jump into the content, I just want to thank you for being out there. Hey Sharon, I see you out there. And so I just want to appreciate all of those who come in and join, even for those who watch after the fact. I know there is a large audience that actually watches these lives after the fact. They are posted on YouTube as well. And then you can always come into the Facebook page and pick up any of the lives that are listed there as well. So I do appreciate that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this. Tonight, it probably will not be a long session, but hopefully it'll be worth your time. All right. So one of the things is that, sometimes we can truly just lose track of what's going on in our relationship, right? So at one point in the relationship, it's like time just went on forever, or you just didn't have enough of it together. So you would find yourselves together, you're googly-eyed, you're lovey-dovey, you're on the phone all times of the night, and just spending time together, and it just seemed like there just wasn't enough time for you to spend together. It just got away from you. And so what happens when you start to grow apart is that time is a little bit different. It gets away, but you're not thinking of it in the same way. You're thinking about it in terms of, you're tired and you have a million things to do, and those are the things that are concerning you. So if for some reason you're feeling like, okay, the time that I'm spending with my spouse is not as I had expected it, or how it had been previously, then maybe it is an indicator that you're growing apart. Hey Janice, and so I want to jump into the reasons why we do grow apart in our relationships. So first of all, we know it's easy to happen. And the reason it's easy to happen is because we get busy in our careers, we get busy raising our children, we get busy with friends and family, we get busy with other organizations and leadership roles that we may have, and all of these things take away from our time, which is the most critical, most important thing, most important asset that we have for ourselves is our time. And so it's always being pulled away. And the place where it tends to suffer is with the relationship with your spouse. You feel like, that can wait. You can always say that can wait. Well, maybe it can wait a little while, but the truth is that you do need that time together. You need to be spending time together, because once you start to pull away from that time, it's like you're not connecting with each other anymore. So you have two spouses. Maybe you got one or both of you may have extremely demanding careers. Maybe one is off traveling a lot. The other is left at home, maybe raising the children or taking care of all the household duties and activities. Maybe you're working long hours, so one or you are doing long hours. And so it does take away from the relationship. It takes a toll on the relationship. Also, it's because maybe you're busy with your kids' activities. I can say, for me and my husband, our kids were involved in a whole lot of things, everything, that you could imagine. And so it just really takes away, they have their own personal activities, they have practices, they have games, they have birthday parties they want to go to. So then you sacrifice your time to take them to parties. You sacrifice time so that they can have play dates, because for us, it's important for our children to, have a good social life and all of these things. But in the process of all of those things, you lose the connection between you and your spouse, because all of these things are taking away from that time. And so it causes the problems that you will see further down the road. So you lose connection. And so one of the things you have to do is you have to be intentional about your relationship. You have to be intentional about the time that you spend together. Sometimes you need to be selfish about that time that you're going to spend with your spouse, because it's important, because it can easily slip away. So the other thing is that you feel like you're doing the right thing, right? So for instance, for your career, everyone wants to be successful in their career. We all have dreams. We have aspirations and goals that we want to attain. And then in addition to that, this career allows us to live the lifestyle that we live. And it allows us to fund all of the activities that the children are participating in, and being able to do the things that you do in your relationship with your entire family. And so you feel a little bit torn, because in this process, you're like, I am really trying to do this for the betterment of my family, but at the same time, it could be pulling you away from your family. So those are the things to watch out for. Additionally, you may be doing it because of the financial goals as well. So maybe there's something that you and your family need to get to. But, if it's a goal, say for instance, you're saving for a home, and you're trying to put in extra hours, long hours perhaps, so that you can create that fund to be able to do that, that should be a short-term situation. It shouldn't be long-term. And I think this is an area where you and your spouse should be talking about that, so everyone understands the sacrifice that's being made. But what I'm speaking of is where it's just that you are dedicated to that job, and that it takes precedent over everything else in your family, and so your relationship is suffering as a result of that. The other area where you may feel like, you're doing the right thing is with the children, because, right, you want them to have a great social life. You want to keep them involved and into activities. One, because in some cases, it may be keeping them out of trouble and keeping them from getting into things that they shouldn't get into. Or it could be because it helps them to have a social life. Or it could be because you want that child to be well-rounded. Perhaps, maybe as a child you didn't get to do a lot of these things, so you're able to afford your own children this opportunity. And so now they're in all of these activities. I can tell you, we have 3 sons that are now adults, and we did everything. I mean, everything. They played baseball. They played football. They played basketball. They ran track. They were in the band. They were in the chess club. They took guitar lessons, karate lessons, all sorts of stuff that they were doing. And it's good. It turned out great for them. But I can say that there was a period where our relationship, me and my husband's, me and Andre, it suffered for that, because we were always somewhere else. With 3 children, we were split apart, He was at one park, I was at another park. One kid got dropped off with other people, and it was constant. And so there was never a break between that. We were always, in one sport or the other. It was just chaos, right? And at the time, we felt like we were doing the right thing. And we were doing the right thing for our children. Some of it I would not trade it, but there is a balance that needs to be there. And there's a balance in terms of the time that you spend with your spouse. And so you have to make that a priority. You have to figure out alternate ways to make sure that you're spending that time together, or else you are going to be in a place like we were in a place where we felt like we had grown apart. We didn't really know each other. It was kind of awkward because all we do is talk football and basketball and all of these things, right? So, but the truth is this: children are going to grow up. They're going to grow up. They're going to go away. They're going to have their own lives. Even when they get to high school, they get to the age where they're driving, they have been your center of your world, right? But they get to high school and all they care about are their friends. They don't want to be with you. They won't spend time with you. And if they can drive themselves to these activities. They can drive themselves to their friends' homes and hanging out and those things. And so the dynamic definitely changes. So the first thing you want to do is like, okay, now we're stuck here together. Now what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? What do we know to talk about? And so you have to go back and figure out, okay, what do we talk about? What did we do before we had these kids? What were we doing when we first met each other? Those type of things. So before we jump into how to fix it and all of those things, let's talk about the signs that are there, that are prevalent probably in the relationship, that is a signal to you that you are growing apart. One of those is, going to bed at different times. So think about that. Now that doesn't mean like, you one spouse or the other, you may have different shifts, you may work, and so yes, one may need to go to bed earlier. But I'm speaking of where you have typically gone to bed together. That was like that time that you come together. You can have that time to talk, before falling asleep together. And now all of a sudden, one spouse is up late, maybe on the computer, on the phone, doing whatever else they can do other than come to bed. If you're having that situation, you might want to pay attention to it, because that leads into the next thing, is not having sex. If you're not having sex, you are growing apart. Sex should be a big deal in your relationship. You should want to be together in that intimate way. That is probably one of the primary ways to be as intimate and affectionate with each other that you can be. And to have that bond and connection where you are two people who are in tune with each other. And so if you're not having sex and you're not going to bed together, then you're probably not having sex if you're not, of course. And so that is a sign that things are going, or you're growing apart. Not spending time together, right? So same thing, you're already not spending time together because you're everywhere else with your kids. You're everywhere else with the family, and you're doing all these other activities except for spending time. And when I say time together, that means one-on-one time together. That means time for the two of you, without the children, without friends and family, so that you can really have that quality time with each other. If the two of you are together, but you feel lonely while you're together, that is a sign that you're growing apart, because you can sit there in the same room with this person that you love, you committed your life to, and not have a conversation, really be to yourself about this, then this is an issue in your relationship, that one is just sitting there on their phone and, you're just not paying attention to what's going on. Maybe one is trying to communicate, but the other is just nonchalant about it. So, they're in a different world, a different space, a different place. Something else that typically happens is picking fights. So when you start to grow apart, you may have one of the spouses who constantly picks a fight. Like everything, makes them upset. You can't do anything right. It's like everything you touch, everything you do is wrong, and they can find it. They will find a problem with it, and you're arguing over minor things that don't really matter at all. So you're, starting those fights and arguments. Keeping secrets. So keeping secrets, that could be keeping secrets about a bank account. It could be keeping secrets about friends and acquaintances, activities that you're involved in. Once you start keeping secrets, I think that is kind of prevalent and is definitely in your forefront to know, okay, something's going wrong. And even if the other spouse, doesn't know that, that you must be growing apart if you're doing it. So if you're the one that's doing it, then you're doing it, and you have secrets. And so if you are, it's a sign that you're growing apart. So you need to fix that if that's not the way that you want things to go in your relationship. And then finally, another thing is making decisions outside of your spouse. So making key or major decisions, maybe major purchases and things like that you go off and you make these decisions. You don't consult with them. You just do it on your own. You don't consider them or their opinion or anything about it. You just do what you felt like you wanted to do, not necessarily for the betterment of the family or what your spouse would appreciate. So those are key things or signs that you're growing apart. I read this article, and one of the ways that it was described when you're growing apart, it was described as like two cars driving down the road, right? You're two cars in parallel, you're driving down the road, and everything is fine as long as both cars, right, are driving parallel to each other. You might hit some bumps in the road. You might hit a dip in the road, but it's okay. You're still moving in the same direction. You're still going parallel with each other. But if one spouse decides to go a different direction, you just turn and you go off into your way and go a different direction, then the space between you grows quickly. That's what happens when you're growing apart. So then how do you fix it so that you can reconnect with your spouse? That's the big deal, right? So the number one thing is communication. And if you've been joining me for these lives, communication is big. I always talk about communication because that has to be a key foundation of your relationship in order to sustain anything, right? Because you have to be able to communicate with each other. You have to be open, you have to be honest, and you need to have the ability to talk to each other. So you need to discuss how you're feeling. So if you are seeing these signs in the relationship, then you need to talk about it. Express how you're feeling, and then the two of you sit down and come up with solutions or resolutions for how you can mitigate some of this, at least as much as you possibly can. Because if you do have children, those things and the activities and things of that nature are not just going to disappear, right? That's not going to go away. Certain things, maybe your job is demanding and maybe you do have to work long hours. That's not going to go away. But what you can do is the two of you sit down and come up with a plan together, because there are probably times where you can make sacrifices for each other. And you need to consider where are the areas where you can make sacrifices, where that the two of you can come together with each other. And then just having some meaningful, conversation. Have meaningful conversation with each other. That's what you want to do. Talk and ask about, what is it that you enjoy about this relationship? Are there things that you would like to see differently in this relationship? Really talk about what your needs are. You know, what is going to carry this marriage forward for a number of years, umpteen years in the future is what you really want to occur. Second thing is prioritizing the relationship. So the relationship has to be the priority. There are so many other things that are out there, but you have to prioritize your relationship and the activities that are going on if you want to sustain it. So you have to be intentional about those things when it comes to the relationship. You may want to consider starting a date night if you're not having one. And if you're growing apart, you're probably not having a date night. Maybe you've gotten away from that. Maybe you used to do that and you haven't been able to do that since you've had all these other activities and things going on. But you need a date night. And when you set up the date night, make it consistent. Make it consistent. Don't just do it one time and then the next 2-3 weeks you don't do it again, or months later then you're saying, oh, we need a date night. No, be consistent. Whatever it is that the two of you agree to in terms of date night and what you're going to do together, hold that time, hold that as close to your heart, that is something that you want to honor and that you want to do with each other, and make sure you make space for each other to do those things. You may even say, let's just have us a weekend getaway. You can get a weekend in, maybe it's just a night away. You know, someplace where just the two of you can be alone, have a romantic evening, have a romantic dinner, you know, maybe can have some of that sex that we talked about, and, you know, to kind of rekindle things and get things back spicy or whatever you need. You do what you need to sustain your relationship, whatever that means for you. You know, no two relationships are the same, and the two people are not the same. So everyone's solution may not look the same. Maybe it's similar, but it's not going to be the same. But you do what works for you. Also, you need to just think about the ways that you used to connect. Like, what did you used to do? Do you remember? You know, maybe that's a fun activity. Talk about all the things that you used to do and see what things that you can rekindle. You know, pull those back in when you first met. You know, what did you do then? You know, obviously you connected at that point because you're together and you're married. So there are things that you used to do that brought the two of you joy and happiness. Again, make sex a priority. You have to make sex the priority. It's easy to get out of the habit of doing it, but, you know, it should be fun. You know, it should be, you know, exactly whatever it is that you want. I know that, you know, when you're busy with so many things, you're like tired from work, you're tired from all the activities with the children, but you still need to make the time for each other. Even if that means the kids go to bed, you relax with a hot bath. To relax a little bit, the two of you are going to bed together rather than one staying up, you know, late, and you're able to come together and have some intimate time together. You know, there was a time when you did do this, because if you have children, somehow they got here. I'm just saying, okay? Another thing is to do something new or do something different together, right? So create a new atmosphere, you know, pick up some new hobby, new activities and such, because that's always fun. It's always exciting. And then it's also good because now maybe you can pick up something that both of you always wanted to do, but you haven't done yet. And so now you can learn together, you can grow together, because that's the key. You want to learn together, you want to grow and develop and have the relationship to evolve together. So some of those things, you know, if it's a hobby, playing bingo, trivia, poker, hiking, you know, maybe you want to take up tennis or golf or whatever those things may be. Do those things. Maybe it's a new experience. You know, go find a paint and sip. You know, go whitewater rafting, do something adventurous, you know, deep sea fishing, or take cooking lessons together. That's a great way to reconnect and to bond with each other is to be together cooking and learning how to prepare some sort of a meal. Maybe it's some specialty type meal. You know, maybe it'll become something that's your favorite and you do it for your special occasions together. I think that's a great way for you to bond. Try out new restaurants. You know, if you want to have a thing where, you know, every once a week you try out a new spot, or is it once a month you try out a new spot? And you know, maybe there's a type of food cuisine that you prefer, that you want to try all of the places that prepare that. Whatever your theme is, be creative and come up with ways that you can spend time together. You know, even visiting new places together, going on vacations. You know, be intentional, you know, where you want to go. Quick getaways, New York or something like that. If you're near the mountains, go to the mountains. If you're near the beach, go to the beach. But just do whatever you can to create the environment for your relationship that you want the most. You have to nurture the relationship. If you want it to last, you must nurture the relationship. If you don't nurture it, you will lose it. That is just inevitable. That's what happens with anything. Anything that's worth having is worth working for. And so you have to work your marriage and work in your marriage and work on your marriage. All of those things you need to do for your marriage. You two people come together, things are going to happen, and yes, you're going to be busy. And yes, there'll be times where, you know, you're just tired and worn out, but that should not be the norm for the relationship. You should be able to quickly readjust, get things back on track to ensure that you're sustaining the relationship. So when those kids, or when the career is over, or, you know, things happen, you can't go to work and you're stuck at home like now with COVID, right? And you're at home with your spouse every day, that you're not feeling like, you know, this is the last place that you want to be. You want to be excited to be at home, and you're enjoying this time that you're spending with them. You're getting this opportunity to spend more time with the man or the woman that you love. So this is the time to do that. If you still find at the end of all of this that you still cannot get things on track, then you may need professional help. And so if I would recommend, as soon as you feel like, you know, things are just not going the direction that they need to be going, you should seek professional help. Because if not, then you're not getting the support that you need. And statistics say that most couples wait too long to actually seek help. Like, you take too long, like, you know that things are going wrong, you know things are not quite right, but instead of getting the help, you will continue down this path, and by the time you determine or decide that you do want to get help, your marriage is already down a path of destruction, of failure, and all of these things. So you don't want to allow it to go that far. So if you are looking for that professional help, I can do that for you. So I am Laquita Joseph, and I am a relationship coach. And so what I do is I help couples turn their failing marriages into flourishing and loving relationships full of acceptance, understanding, and passion. I help them to reboot and to reconnect so that they can regain the friendship and fun that they once had in their marriage. And so if this is something that resonates with you, you can go to my website. It is www.copperpennycoaching.com/free session. And you can schedule a free session where we can just talk about your current situation. It does not have to be the both of you, you and your spouse. You know, it can just be one. Of course, it's more efficient and more effective if it's the two of you, but if one person is willing to make some changes and they want to make some changes, the relationship can change in that regard. So thank you for that. I just want to say, if you need that, go to my website, www.copperpennycoaching.com/free session. So I see that I have a lot of folks out here that is here. It looks like, okay, my sis is out there, Janice, and she invited Tracy to the call, and I appreciate that. And maybe she'll join us again. I don't know that she have to drop off. So I'm excited about that. I see Yolanda's out there. Hey. And I know there were several other folks that were on, so I didn't get to call their names. I did in the beginning. There were some folks that were already there, but I really appreciate your time and you stopping by to spend a little time with me. I am here each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to get more of these nuggets, more of the tips, please come join me here. If you are married, I do have a Facebook group where you can bond with other like-minded, other married people and couples if couples want to come in. And so that's open to you. So if you'd like to join the group, it is the Copper Penny Lounge. So you need to go out and check that out. And I thank you, and you all have a great evening.